Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another very exciting Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. I am your host, Jesus Ramirez. How are you doing today? I hope that you're having a wonderful Tuesday. It is Tuesday morning for me. I am in the San Francisco Bay Area. Would love to know where you are. Let me know in the chat. I already see a lot of people in the chat. Oh man, it's going to be a fun-filled day. Sam, how's it going? Michelle, Anthony, Neil, Susan, Tunak, as always. Yasunari, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Mia, Felipe, Susan, Nathan, Anna. Always good to see you. Anna, Ahmed, Judith, Matt, Steve, thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope that you're having a wonderful, wonderful day. So we're going to have another fun-filled day today with Photoshop. This is the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge number 6, if I'm not mistaken. And if you haven't joined us for the past 5 challenges, then welcome. And if you're back, then thank you guys so much for coming back. I'm so glad to see you here. We're going to learn a lot today. So why don't we just jump right into the housekeeping items so that we can get into Photoshop as soon as possible. Let me quickly switch my screen over so that you could see what I'm looking at. And make sure that you go into behance.net/challenge/Photoshop, and you'll see this Daily Creative Challenge page where you have this big blue button in the center. Make sure that you click on that so that you get notified via the Creative Cloud for upcoming daily creative challenges. Also, while you're here, make sure that you click on the community chat, and that will bring up Discord. And on the left-hand side, you'll see a feedback tab, and click on current challenge so that you can submit your work and see the work that we've been creating during this last week. You can see that yesterday we worked on some bling text, some wrapper-like text. This one looks pretty cool. Good job there, Frank. Awesome. So yeah, so make sure that you come in here and submit your work on Discord. You'll see the community of mentors, including Claudia from Print My Soul, who just finished her stream just a couple of moments ago. You probably caught that. We have Sam, Tim, Valdir, and of course, Voodoo Val. So yeah, make sure that you come into Discord, submit your work, check out the past challenges, ask a question, tips and tricks, career advice, anything you like. So make sure that you check that out. Also, in this behance.net/challenge/Photoshop page, if you scroll down, you'll see these boxes that unlock every single day. And today we're going to be working with custom currency. We're going to be making some money. Yesterday we worked on a wrapper text. I guess today we're going to work on the Benjamins. Well, not really Benjamins, more like pennies, but I guess they're still currency. So I'm going to show you how to put your face on a metallic coin. So we're going to design a coin from scratch. And I'm going to show you a couple techniques that not only should help you in achieving a coin effect, but also hopefully help you out in other projects. So it's going to be a fun-filled day. Make sure that you click on the Get Started file so that you can follow along with me. Also, if I go too fast or you come into the stream late or you have to go and come back, make sure that you click on the Watch Video button to catch the replay. And you can watch the replay for all the daily creative challenges that I've done and that everyone has done. If you scroll down past this section here, you'll see the past challenges, and you'll see all the daily creative challenges here by me, Paul Trani, Claudia from Print My Soul, Voodoo Val, and Kathleen Martin, and everyone else. So make sure that you check them out if you haven't already. Also, make sure that with anything that you create with the Daily Creative Challenges, whether it's the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, the XD Daily Creative Challenge, or the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge, you should upload your work onto Behance by clicking on this big blue button. If you don't know how to go through that process, watch the first stream of this series of Daily Creative Challenges and I go through the process. But the important thing you have to do is make sure that you submit the tag, the hashtag PS Daily Challenge, PS Daily Challenge, so that you have an opportunity to be featured in our curated creative challenges gallery. So you might get an opportunity to have your work displayed in our gallery if you use that hashtag. Again, the hashtag is PS Daily Challenge or XD Daily Challenge if you're doing daily creative challenges with Howard, and the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge hashtag is AI Daily Challenge. And you can see the categories here. You can click on the categories and check out the work that you guys have been submitting. So really cool stuff. Let me see if there is any questions in the chat. I see my good friend Seth in the chat. How's it going, Seth? Yeah, we're gonna make it rain. Michelle, Dorina, Mia, We're gonna stack some paper today, Seth. Yeah, we are. Awesome. If you guys haven't checked out Seth's work, make sure that you do click on his profile, and he does a lot of cool stuff with big brands like Nike's, and also he's got an awesome course on retouching a Nike shoe, and then a runner, I think it is, but it's super cool. Check it out. Maybe you can post a link on there, Seth. I don't know it off the top of my head. We have Paco in the house. How's it going, Paco? Steve from New Zealand. Awesome. So let's jump right into Photoshop now. So this is the file that you should have inside of your computer now if you downloaded that Dropbox link from the Getting Started button that you clicked on. And also you might recognize this photo. I'm going to use a photo of me, which is the same photo that we used in the first or second challenge to create the double exposure effect like the Joyner Lucas album cover. I think it was challenge number 2. But anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to work with this shape. And I just wanted to have a shape to get you started. You can use whatever shape you like. A shape is really easy to create. All you need to do is click on the ellipse tool, click on this down pointing arrow, and make sure that you have shape enabled. The color really doesn't matter at this point. You can select a gray color and click and drag from the center. If you hold the Alt key or Option key on the Mac, you can scale or create the circle from the center. Depending on your installation of Photoshop or the version of Photoshop that you have, you may have to hold Shift. We talked about it yesterday. I'm old school, so I like holding the Shift key. And since I'm talking about this in the beginning of the stream now, if you want to enable the Shift key again, you can press Control K on Windows, Command K on the Mac to bring up the Preferences panel, and you can see this checkbox, Use Legacy Free Transform. So that would allow you to hold the Shift key when you transform like you used to in the past. In recent versions of Photoshop, it was changed so that you don't have to hold the Shift key to scale proportionally. But since I've been doing this for 20 years, I just got used to doing it one way. So I like to go back to the old way. But it's totally cool if you use the new way. It makes no difference. It's all personal preference. Awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with this circle. And before I actually do anything to that circle, what I'm going to do is click away from that shape, that main shape. And actually, no, I'll click on that shape and then press Control J, Command J on the Mac to duplicate. So now I have 2 of my main shapes. And I'll just hide the bottom one for now. So with the main shape active and also the elliptical tool active with shape selected, I'm going to click from the center and drag out like so, right about there. Then I'm gonna go into this drop down and select subtract from shape. And actually, sorry about that. What I needed to do is hold Alt. You see, I held Alt a little too late. I needed to hold Alt so I can get that minus icon and then click and drag out like so, and then it should cut a hole right into that. So you have to hold the Alt key before you start clicking. I held the Alt key after I started clicking, so that's why that happened. So now we have that ring. And when this ring is active over our original shape, all I have to do is go to the side of the layer, double click, and click on Bevel and Emboss, and it creates that nice little bevel. I'll reset it to default so that you can see the settings that I'm using. And I'm just going to increase the size a little bit and the depth, and you can adjust it accordingly. And all I'm doing is creating that outer ring that you often see on coins. And for now, I'm not even worried about the color. I'm just gonna make everything black and white and just change the color at the very, very end. And what I'm gonna do now is show you a really cool trick. You can use any layer for this, but I'm just gonna use a simple circle. First, I'm gonna make sure that I don't have a vector layer selected. So I'm going to click on this portrait layer, which is a pixel layer. And again, this could be with any type of layer. You can use this technique with any layer. I'm just going to use an ellipse. And I'm just gonna make a tiny little circle like so. And I'm gonna move it right about here. And then I'm gonna zoom in. In the new version of Photoshop, they, for some reason, decided to hide the pivot point by default, you know, this little reference point. So if you press Control T, Command T to transform, make sure that you have this checkbox if you're in Photoshop 2020 enabled, because if you don't, then you won't see that rotation point. It's on default by default in older versions of Photoshop, but in newer versions it's not, so you have to enable it. So when you enable it, you'll see that reference point there. Since I'm right on the guide, I may actually click and drag and pull the guide instead of that point. So what I'll do is click on one of these tiny little boxes here. You see this tiny little box here in the corner? When I click on that, the pivot point or the reference point moves to the side, and now I can click and drag it and place it anywhere. So I'm just gonna click and drag it way down here to the center of my document, right there. I'll zoom out, and what I'll do now is from the options bar, I'm going to just rotate it 4 degrees. Just hit 4 right here, and it just rotates just a tiny little bit from that point, and I'll click on the check mark to commit the changes. Then if I hold Control Alt Shift, that's Command Option Shift on the Mac, and tap on the letter T, I can replicate that transformation in a new layer. So it's just going to go all the way around in a circle. And I'm just tapping the T key while holding Control, Alt, and Shift, Command, Option, and Shift. And you can use any shape, any layer for this. It doesn't have to be a circle. I just wanted to use a circle. So now I have all these different layers creating those circles that are going around the text. And I'm just going to select them all by clicking on the top one, holding Shift, clicking on the bottom one, holding Shift again. It selects them all. Control G, Command G on the Mac to put them into a group. Did you guys know that you could repeat transformations like that? So you can do that with any transformation. So all I did is I made a transformation that moved that circle 4 degrees from that center of that circle. And if I keep pressing that keyboard shortcut, Control, Alt, Shift, and then tap on the letter T, it will repeat that same transformation that you made, whatever it is. I could have rotated the image, I could have scaled it, I could have done anything, but you can repeat a transformation. That's the point that I'm trying to make with that keyboard shortcut. Cool. So now with this layer active, all I'm going to do is double click to the side of the group. It's not a layer, it's a group. That's where all my layers are in. And bring up the layer style window. I can bring down the fill opacity to 0. See that? Fill opacity to 0. That means that the only visible pixels in that layer will now be pixels that I create through the layers panel. And I said layer, all the visible pixels in that group, not the layer, and all those layers, because they're all in one group. I'm applying the layer style to the group. And I can now click on bevel and emboss, and I get that effect you see there. See that? It looks like it's going down now. It looks like it's going up. Totally up to you if you want to have a indentation, or maybe it's raised above the coin. Totally up to you what you want to do. And it doesn't have to be a circle. It could be a star. It could be writing. It could be anything. It could be like a character, anything you want. Cool. So this looks pretty good for now. What I'm going to do at this point is look at the chat and see if there's any questions. Cheryl Howard. Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, it's a really cool technique. Bring the Illustrator tricks to Photoshop. That's right, Seth. Cool, I didn't know that. Awesome. Kind of like Control D in AI. Cool. Oh, that's good to know. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Awesome. Just checking out to see if we have any questions. I see my pal Gus in the chat. Hey, Gus, what's up, man? Cool. Yeah, the anchor point. You need to see the anchor point. I called it, I don't know why I started calling it a pivot point. I must have learned it from someone, but you know, anchor point, pivot point, reference point, it all means the same thing. Cool. So let me now work on this horrible portrait of myself. And you know what, to make things easier, I'm just gonna open it up in a new document so that we don't have all these layers disturbing us. So what I'll do is I'll right click on the layer, select duplicate if I can find it. There it is, duplicate layer, and then under document I'll just select new and I'll press OK, and that will open it up in a new tab. And also, just so that I'm only working with the actual portrait and not anything else, I'm just gonna crop it so that, you know, it's just the portrait and not all that extra space. And there's a lot of ways in which you can try to create like a metallic effect. We actually saw one earlier in the challenge when we created the gilded objects. You can try that and see if it works. But we'll just try a different technique in this stream just so that we can have more tools and techniques in our toolbox, in our Photoshop toolbox. So what I'm gonna do now is show you two things. I'll show you like the super easy one in case you just don't wanna like be bothered. The super easy one is simply by going into the filter menu, and actually I'll duplicate the layer, that way I don't have to undo. So filter menu, camera raw filter, and I'm just gonna try to smooth out my face to like a crazy area like so. In the detail panel, I'll reduce the noise, and there you go. Super, super smooth skin, super fake. Then you can go into filter, stylize, and emboss. And then you can try to make yourself seem like a coin by using these sliders. And then you can press Control-Shift-U, Command-Shift-U on the Mac to desaturate, to remove the color. And that could be one way in which you create the metallic look that a coin would have. Another more advanced way of doing that is by, again, going into the Camera Raw filter, and I'm going to smooth myself out as much as I can by reducing the texture, reducing the clarity, and increasing the noise reduction. And then go into your channels panel, and then you can see the red, the green, and the blue channel. And I'm going to use the channel that looks less extreme, maybe the green or blue. I'll try the green and see how that works. And I'll click and drag and duplicate it, and I'll zoom in to my face and just make sure there's nothing crazy going on. I see this highlight here that might create some problems on my nose, and maybe some problems here on the lips, but we'll just go with it and see what comes up. And I'll just call this duplicate channel portrait. And then I can go back into the RGB mode, click on layers, and then click to create a new layer. And you can go into edit and fill, because we want to fill this layer with 50% gray, and I'll press OK. There's this really cool filter in Photoshop that everybody used to use like 20 years ago, and I never see anyone using these days. But we're going to work with it. It's under Filter, Render, Lighting, Effects, and there it is. Awesome, right? No, just kidding. Nothing happened yet. If you go under Texture, you see how it says None? You can load a channel or your custom channel, Portrait. There it is. Boom. And then now I can adjust the lighting in this by clicking and dragging on these handles. See that? Or if you want to be even cooler, you can adjust maybe by the spotlight and then just make it larger like so. You know, this kind of looks more like a coin. I don't know. You guys will have to decide. And we have a point light where you can just click and drag like so to adjust it. See that? So it's totally up to you which of these techniques you use. And you can just click and drag on this one like this to rotate it. Pretty cool stuff. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Maybe this one like this, or the spotlight? I don't know. I think I might go for the spotlight. Let me know what you guys think in the chat. I know it's gonna take a minute to catch up, but we'll see what we do here. See, because this one can create like a really big highlight, like on the forehead. I don't know. Awesome. But yeah, and see what I was talking about? It made it like the nose and the lips are just a little weird. Like you may have to go in there and smooth them out. I don't have time for that. I'm looking at the time, so we're just gonna go with this, all right? But you can fine tune the settings as much as you want. So that's one way of doing it. This is another way. I like this way better. So now that I have this layer, I can just click and drag it over into my custom currency folder, and I can just hide the portrait layer because we don't need it. And what I can do now is create actually, you know what I'll do is with my original photo selected, I'm gonna go into select subject, and hopefully Photoshop does a good job in selecting me. Yep, it did a really good job, and I can just apply that to this other layer, and there it is. And what I can do now is select my portrait layer again so that a non-vector layer is selected, and I'm gonna click and drag here like so to create a circle, or like right about there, and I'm gonna clip it to the layer below like that. And actually, you know what? Yeah, that's fine. This will work. This will work. What I'll do is I'm gonna show you. I had another idea of doing something, but I'll show you guys a trick. So if you want to use like something, anything, doesn't have to be a vector layer, a layer as a mask like that, but you don't actually want it to show, what you can do is bring down the fill to 0%, right? But then that also hides the clip layer. You can bring it back by double clicking to the side of the layer and clicking on unchecking this box. See that? And it just comes back. So you can still use it as a mask, but those pixels won't show up if you bring down the fill opacity to 0. And then you can just adjust the opacity on this particular layer, or adjust the levels, whatever you want. So let's see. Let me see, what should we do next? I'm looking at the time because we don't have a lot of time. And what I'll do now is add some text. So we can add text to a circle in Photoshop by doing this. You can go into the elliptical marquee tool, or the elliptical shape tool, and change it to path, and then click and drag from the center. Let me just make sure that combine shapes is selected. Click and drag from the center. Then you hold Alt. This time I do want to hold Alt after the fact. Hold Shift to keep it constrained and go right about here. And what I'm going to do is just click on my text layer, and I'll call it, I don't know, we'll just call it $2. So this is a $2 coin. $2 or dollar, I don't know. Did I spell dollar correctly? It doesn't seem right. But anyway, so with the path selection tool active now, I can come into the text, and you'll notice that there's a two-sided arrow when I hover over the text, and I can click and drag. And when I click and drag, I can flip the text in or out, totally up to you. And also you'll notice an endpoint and starting point, and they're on the other side. You can't really see them. And by the way, the way the control works depends on what alignment you have. So if I have align to the left selected, then it moves all the way out here, but then I can click and drag my points here, like starting and ending points. See that? So you can just use these sliders to control how they start and end. You know what I mean? Like so, right there. So that one can go up to there, and then this one here can go up to right here. And then when I hit center, watch what happens. It'll center right in between those 2 points. So you gotta be careful with those start and end points. And what I'll do now is, again, click on the path selection tool, and if you go into this 3-dot icon, it shows you more options here in the properties panel. If you're in an older version of Photoshop, you won't see it there. You'll have to go into the character panel, and you'll get the same controls. But I'm in a new version of Photoshop, so I can do it from the properties panel. And what you can do now is adjust the baseline shift, and you can just adjust how far away from that line it is. If it's right at 0, it'll be right on that line. So in this case, I don't want it right on that line because it's too close to those dots. So I can click and drag on the label to adjust it. And I can do the same thing. Double click to the side of the layer, reduce the fill opacity, and apply a bevel and emboss. And again, you can adjust the bevel and emboss any way that you want. And when it's all said and done, what you can do is you can select the top layer, select the bottom layer while holding Shift. It'll select everything in between. I'll put that into a group. And then I can create a hue and saturation adjustment layer. Click on the clipping mask icon, click on colorize, and then, hey there, are you guys still there? It looks like. Hey guys, I don't know if I'm painting